didn't ask that time either. And then she had seen me, and she thought, oh, what a cute baby, you know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
they had those, they put those circles on my cheeks. So she was asking what that was all about. And they explained to her that meant that I had been cleaned, you know, for the day or for that shift. So it was, I don't think it was until I was older that I kind of realized how different that was from, you know, hospitals here in America, and how, you know, infants would be treated there. But yeah, it was pretty powerful.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, because that whole thing, yeah, so was it, what did they mark the cheeks with?
Oh, I'm sorry. They marked them with iodine.
Just with iodine and made a circle on the cheeks, and that just meant that baby
Yes.
was clean for the day.
Yes. So
Wow.
that, you know, was the like indicator who had been cleaned, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. So different. So different. You
Oh,
know,
yeah.
yeah, it didn't even cross my mind. Can you tell us, and if you don't want to, just say I don't want to tell you, but can you tell us when your adoption took place? Like what year?
Oh, sorry. I was adopted in March of, or March or soon thereafter. I will say, probably about May of 1991. So
91.
it was,
Oh,
yeah. So it was 1 year after, a little less than 1 year after the dictator had been assassinated.
okay. My goodness. Do you know now, does any of that stuff still go on? The thing about staying, I'm assuming the dictator was just wanting to build up the country. I have no idea. But does that kind of craziness still go on over there, or do you know?
It's crazy in its own way, of course. They do not, as far as I know, they do not have as many orphanages anymore. But what they did do was stop international adoptions, and
Um,
they had actually stopped those basically right after my mom had adopted me. So
wow.
now one of the adopting parents has to be a Romanian citizen, whatever that means. Who knows if maybe you can kind of buy that thing these days there, or how that works. But they insist that one is at least a Romanian citizen. Um, and some, you know, other stipulations, basically making it impossible for foreigners to adopt there.
Okay. Okay. Well, and do you know why that law was
I
passed?
don't.
Okay. It's ju-
Yeah.
it's just so, I think we get so busy living in our own little bubble and in our own little world, and we don't even realize all of this other stuff is going on, outside of our own world. And it's just so amazing to me. Um, it's just amazing to me. And because I study Chinese medicine, acupuncture and Oriental medicine, that I
Yeah.
spent a lot of time with Chinese people. And
Right.
it's a complete opposite. It's one child. You are only allowed to have one child. And here in Romania,
Mhm.
they're pushing to have as many children as possible. And the cultures, it's just so amazing to me. Um, what happens. So again, I know you're not an expert in the orphanage area, but can you tell us at least what you know about it? What was so damaging? We spoke about this a little bit at the very beginning, but what was so damaging about the orphanages, or how the little babies growing up in there and growing up into 18 years old? What is the story with that?
Sure. So with children growing up in an institution like an orphanage there in Romania, um, you have basically no touch or real sense of communication. You know, I guess until kind of kids start doing it on their own, but they're, you know, the lack of, I guess, education and care leads to children having physical ailments such as it's basically where kids become cross-eyed because there's nothing, they don't focus on anything for so long. So by the time they're a few years old, they have maybe, one crossed eye or both crossed eyes, So, and that's just because there's no focus. Their eye muscles never got trained.
Right.
And then, you have things all the way through, just emotional damage. Imagine being a kid and, you don't have a parent or a family, or, you just have these other people who are like you, and I'm sure they become close, but that's still, it doesn't replace a family.
Right. Right. It's just so astonishing to me. I mean, when you had told me that about these little babies becoming cross-eyed because they're not focusing, I mean, their vision is just right here. There's nothing for
Yeah.
them to focus on. So just a few inches in front of their face. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my goodness, it's heartbreaking. It is absolutely so heartbreaking. And then all of the emotional, um, the stunted emotional growth and physical growth because of just the lack of touch and communication. And man, how
Absolutely.
blessed.
And also just how at, 18, they're basically just released onto the street. So there's no, and who know and like I said, I don't know for sure. It might be different now in that maybe they're supported a little bit when they get released, at 18, but I
Yeah.
can't imagine that it's that different.
Right, right. Yeah. And you have no social skills. I mean,
Right.
nothing. It's just, oh my goodness. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely not set up for success.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Wow. Amazing. Amazing. So I know that we're starting to run out of time here, Daniela. So I want to kind of bring this in for a landing. And this is really taking a hard left. So the listeners know we're taking a hard left and I'm doing it intentionally. But one of the things, and this is where I met you, was at Crystal Alchemy Singing Bowls, the training for that in Los
Yeah.
Angeles in November. I guess we did that in November, October. I
Yeah,
think
end of
October.
October. Yeah,
Wow.
actually, end of
Wow.
October. We were actually done. What, the 30th? It was
Yes.
unbelievable.
Yes, yes. It's just and I know that you have some different events that are coming up. Now I don't know for sure if those events will come and go by the time this airs, but could you share with us when you have one of your singing bowl events coming up? And before you do that, because we are going to run out of time, would you be willing to come back? And I have a ton more questions I want to ask you. Would you be willing to come back and do part 2 of this interview where I get to dive in a little bit more about your personal experience about being adopted?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I would love to be back on. And if anybody wants to follow along, they can feel free to follow me on Instagram. You might hear my fur babies in the background going a little crazy now. They're just saying hello and signing off for the end of this show. But
Yes.
you can follow me along on my Instagram, which is Namaste Meditated. So just Namaste Meditated, no punctuation. Or they can follow me on Facebook, same thing, Namaste Meditated. And they'll be able to see my live list of events going on in the Albany, New York area, so upstate New York and the New York City area.
All in the New York City area. All right. Awesome. Perfect. Perfect. Well, I'm telling you, Daniela, I have a ton of other questions I want to ask you. And I know
Wonderful.
that, yes, and I know you can play beautiful singing bowls. So, listeners, I hope if you're in the New York City area, I hope you get that opportunity to go and listen and take part in that. So, Daniela, I'm going to say goodbye to you right now, and then we're going to connect again in a week so we can do part 2 of this. And listeners, I just want to remind you, all of Daniela's information will be in the show notes. So if you missed anything on how to connect with her, no worries, it will all be there. And Daniela, thank you so much. And until we talk again next week, Daniela, I wish you well.
Thank you so much for having me. It was such a pleasure.
I loved it. Yes, thank you. And listeners, have a wonderful week yourself, and we'll be back here next week. Bye-bye for now.
Thank you for spending time with us today. Please go to nadahogan.com for show notes and other information you can use right away. If you like what you heard here, please subscribe to our show, and don't forget to rate and review right there on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play, or wherever you get your shows. And don't forget to tell your friends about it. We'll see you next week.